46% of PlayStation gamers in the US indicated that if Call of Duty were available on Game Pass, they would consider subscribing to Game Pass. Now, the thing I want to clarify, though, is that they then included that YouGov survey at the end, and it doesn't quite say that. We're just going to do zombies.
We're just rolling straight through it.
We're rolling straight through. Zombies, yeah, okay. Well, if there's too many zombies, though, that's not going to help with the coffin market. Look at the chandelier above his head. That has a loose chain.
What is this bow doing here on this balcony during this wedding?
Yeah. Alex, have you been declassified?
No, I'm still quite in the Black Vault.
Oh, excellent. We've redacted everything about you. Well, from your undisclosed location, though, I think we'll still record an episode if it's okay with you.
Yeah, just don't GPS geotag me or anything like that. Bad news.
I'll ping you later. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of Total Pebble Knockdown. I am Nathan.
And I am Alex, and yeah.
Undisclosed locations all together, but that's okay. The information that we're going to talk about today is not. So on today's Weekly Muse, I wanted to kind of do a little bit of a follow-up to something we talked about last week. Alex, you remember when we were talking about everybody screaming about release dates for the PS6?
Yes.
And then once I actually got to look at the document that everybody was complaining about, or that was leaked from Sony, what it basically said is that the Call of Duty franchise would theoretically be offered on their systems until like 2027, and the new console release would essentially be after that because they wouldn't have access to it. That's basically what the upshot of it was. So what we basically learned is that sometime after 2027 is when Sony plans on releasing a PS6. Not exactly the hugest thing to understand, because that's still quite a ways off.
What you were telling me before is that that's not the most important part of that document. That's just the thing that people went, oh my god, PS6.
Yeah, here's the thing that's amazing. That is legitimately one paragraph on page 8 of a 22-page document. That's it.
That tracks.
Yeah, that's page 8. I don't think most people really discussed what the overall document was about, because I think that it's worth talking about. And Lord knows, one, I'm not good at reading, internal documentation, because frankly, it gets very boring to me, and I haven't exactly combed through it with a fine-tooth comb. But even just a cursory look at it, you realize what the actual point of this document was. And so, basically, Sony Interactive Entertainment had put this out back in October 28th of 2022. And they say that it's a leaked document. I'll get into why I have some reservations about that in a minute. But the reason why they put this out as what they refer to as a confidential document was about the potential ramifications of the company when it comes to the merger of Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. That's what the whole document was actually about. And in that, what they're mostly talking about is the effect of the Call of Duty franchise. It's even in that paragraph that I was discussing before. It's basically on the idea of what Call of Duty would mean if it's not available on their platform. So that's the real key. And there were some interesting things that I happened to see that I thought I would just talk a little bit about, because I found them to be more interesting, I think, in terms of how companies view their franchises.
Okay.
And that Call of Duty seems to have so much market share at this point that it really is the thing that everyone is focusing on. Whether that makes sense or not, I don't.
I don't think I've ever really played a Call of Duty or any of those shooters.
It's not necessarily our kind of game, but it is a huge franchise. I'll have to admit that. One of the things that they discuss in this document is the idea that it's not replicable. And the reason why they talk about this is in terms of Call of Duty and Battlefield. And so one of the things that they cite is that in August of 2021, more than 400 million Call of Duty games had been sold, while Battlefield had sold just 88.7 million copies. What they go on to discuss is that if they lost the ability to have access to a Call of Duty franchise, it would just take so many years and billions of dollars in order to build a competing franchise that would possibly just not have the market share, and Battlefield's kind of the example that they give of that.
Yeah.
So right up at the front, like, yeah, no, I understand that. And as they talk about in this particular document, there's like multiple teams at Activision working for 3 to 5 years each on Call of Duty games so that they can do annual releases. It's a huge deal. We know that.
Yeah, that makes sense since they pump them out so much.
Yeah, they do. And they can pretty much rely on the fact that they are going to make bank every time they put them out, even if they are, from my personal opinion, pretty cut and paste. Like, I've played enough Call of Duty games to be at the point where it's like I don't even remember what happened in each individual game, or even if it was a Call of Duty game that I played.
Well, I mean, the question is really now, are people playing those for the story, or are they playing those for the multiplayer modes?
I mean, the fact is that if you have anyone playing for long-term on those shooters, it's probably on multiplayer.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing for competitions and all the rest of it. I don't know how many people really follow for a single-player campaign. That I don't know. And if it is in the document, it didn't really pop out to me so far. The other thing that I thought was very interesting, though, was that they're citing a survey that came out in January of 22 from YouGov. Including Call of Duty on GamePass would have a profound impact on gamer preferences for multi-game subscription services. 46% of PlayStation gamers in the US indicated that if Call of Duty were available on Game Pass, they would consider subscribing to Game Pass. Now, the thing I want to clarify, though, is that they then included that YouGov survey at the end, and it doesn't quite say that.
No?
No, it's kind of fascinating. It doesn't say if Call of Duty was put on it. It says 46% of PlayStation gamers in the US indicated the inclusion of Activision titles in Game Pass would make them consider subscribing to the Xbox service.
Okay, so they just correlate that with that.
They correlate that Call of Duty is the thing, but if you go down to the bottom, in my little sleuthing thing, it says that options presented to respondents were Call of Duty, but then also like Crash Bandicoot, Skylanders, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, Diablo, Overwatch, StarCraft, Warcraft. So I'm thinking some of them might have been interested in joining.
I feel like it comes down to being Call of Duty and then maybe like Overwatch and maybe Warcraft. And what was the other one?
StarCraft, Diablo.
I don't think people are getting Game Pass to play StarCraft.
No. I can see, though, that if they were to include, like...
Or Crash Bandicoot, for that matter.
No, or Spyro? Oh, come on. Yeah, no, I think that a lot of those might not necessarily get people to buy Game Pass. I could see, though, if they put, like, Diablo 4, and they put that on Game Pass, that might be something that drives sales.
Maybe.
Who knows? We're also talking about trying to get people that don't already have an active Xbox Game Pass subscription, which they even talk about in here is quite a significant number, even compared to PlayStation's live services of the type. But so there's a few things like that I thought were kind of interesting, because it seems like they're kind of laser focused in on this idea of Call of Duty being the big issue here, and not having access to it would be detrimental to their business, which I get just because of the amount of active users that it has and the amount of money that it generates. but it really didn't have nearly as much to do with the release date of a PS6. I mentioned at the beginning that I had a little bit of reservation about the confidentiality of the document. The only reason I say that, Alex, is because it does say at the beginning that it's confidential, contains business secrets, and so everyone's like freaking out that it got leaked. However, when you get to the leaked documents, there's a ton of very important redactions that are done in it, with just giant black bars across a lot of would have been really useful information, even in the part that they cite, where Sony plans on launching its next generation. They have a little thing in parentheses which says, which is likely to occur around, and then that's blacked out. So we don't even have the date that they listed in the document to say when the new PlayStation was expected to be released. And then at the very bottom, where they get into these addendums, which would, have supporting material, like the annexes, it's just a giant black box.
You can probably show it on screen, too.
I'm gonna show it, because I have a screen clip so that people can see it, but it says, like, confidential, contains business secrets, but the entire Annex 1 is just a giant-ass black box of nothing. And it's like, so it might have been a confidential document, but at the same time, it has been highly redacted since it got released. So I don't know what version of this it was, but it was definitely past the original paths that would have gone out to the higher ups. There's some missing data in here. It feels like this was probably something that was given secondhand to somebody else, and then they threw it out there on the internet. There's some really important information there, especially if you were to say, hey, here's when the next PlayStation is coming out, to actually have the date that they said, even though it's not actually listed there. The context seems to have gotten a little lost because people laser focused in on this one very specific thing.
Yeah, that's what people tend to do. They're more excited about when the console might come out than the other businessy side of things, probably.
From the customer's market, obviously, we would be interested in when the consoles are going to come out. We might not necessarily care all that much about the ins and outs of the business models, but in some ways I think we kind of should care, because the businesses are the whole reason why the consoles exist. And so what they decide to do on their end has a direct effect on the product that you get. When I see something where it seems like this giant document to explain that it would be really good to have Call of Duty, what it says to me is what the company is prioritizing as what they want to put out on their system. And I don't play Call of Duty, by and large, which makes me a little more wary of what the focal point for the future is going to be. If they're talking about just trying to emulate multiplayer shooters, I would be a little bit concerned.
We just want battle royales and nothing else.
We just want battle royales. I saw a thing just this morning, it was an extra punctuation, and Yahtzee had made a really interesting point because he was talking about the live services dying off. And one thing that he said that really stuck with me, the way that bureaucracies essentially work in corporations is, hey, I saw this model and made a lot of money, let's just make one of those and then we'll make the same money. And it doesn't work that way. No. That Battlefield is actually probably, they use the example here, and they kind of acknowledge that, you can't just replicate it immediately without a lot of time in. But no, you can't just make your own version of Call of Duty and call it like Mall of Scooty or something, and then Mall of Scooty. It's where you use a scooter, you go around a mall, and it's a first-person shooter, but you're riding around on scooters in a mall.
Yeah, and it's part Tony Hawk.
And it's part Tony Hawk, yeah.
To get both the Activision titles people want. That.
You're on scooters, it's Tony Hawk, you get to do tricks and stuff, but you have a gun in your hands, and you get to shoot each other in a battle royale. Damn, so that actually sounds fun. Damn
so really what it is drive-by scooting.
Drive-by scooting. Yeah, exactly. That's what we can call it. Anyway, well, great. We just made a killer franchise right there. No one's doing that. But the general notion that he was talking about is the way that a lot of companies have a tendency of thinking is that, hey, this thing made money as a live service or as an MMO or something like that. He even talked about World of Warcraft in this regard. Like, everybody needed to make a World of Warcraft afterward, and then they all died off because, no, people aren't going to leave World of Warcraft to come play your thing. They already have the MMO.
Yes and no. People leave World of Warcraft all the time.
But they keep coming back.
A lot of people keep playing it and coming back.
If they're going to play an MMO, like either they get sick of the MMO and they probably stop playing the one they played, or they come back to the one that they already have all their stuff on.
Yeah, I'm going to say right now I have tried quite a few MMOs in my day. And the only one that really sticks is World of Warcraft to me.
Yeah, I know. You've gone back to it several times, probably because you're familiar with it. And
I never really stop. I just take breaks.
Yeah, fair enough. Usually, like, when I'll see a kind of game and I like a kind of game, I'll probably stick with the franchise that it's in. And I might take a pass at games that are in that genre, but I don't necessarily stick with them like I did with the originals. Who knows? Sony, if you're out there and you're listening to this, if you come up with a killer new idea, you might end up with an exclusive property that Microsoft doesn't have. Maybe focus in on that. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to just bring up. A little bit more context and talk about what I think is a larger issue in that document that got lost in the process.
Yeah.
While everyone was screaming about, we have a date for the PS6. No, you don't. You have a time period after which you think that the PS6 is coming out.
Anywhere between tomorrow and 2050.
We are sometime between right this second and the heat death of the universe. Well, it's the PS6, so there you go. Hot off the presses, everybody. You can take that to the bank and cash it. So, Alex, we've got a delving deeper today.
Perfect. Deeper.
So we've gone so deep down the delve, and now we're going to talk a little bit about world building. When DriveThruRPG did a little bit of a sale, I picked up a few things I've been meaning to pick up while they were a little cheaper. One of them that I was really excited to pick up because I want to run it once I can figure out how to do that, and people who would want to actually play it, was Kids on Bikes.
Right, you've been mentioning that you wanted to try that.
Yes, it's very rules-light system, and it did come highly recommended from the people who had played it. And I understand why. Much faster and simpler and more story-driven in its execution. The general idea is being like a team of regular people that are in a small town and have to deal with all of the spooky weirdness that goes on in it, similar to...
Stranger Things?
It definitely has Stranger Things as an inspiration. I would say also, like, maybe E.T. or The Goonies or stuff like that. That genre of small
but Stranger
town
Things
mysteries.
for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, let's face it, the two supplements that they have for adventures are called Strange Adventures. So I'm thinking that there's definitely a piece of that. But early into reading through the document, they had this thing about world building. And they mentioned that it should be, set in a small town, can be any point in history, just before everyone had video cameras in their pocket. And it should be remote enough that the rest of the world doesn't care about it, but close enough that black helicopters can be there within hours. Probably everybody knowing each other, but also rumors travel really quickly. They also talk about the idea of collaborative creation, and it got me to thinking about the rules that they set forward because I thought it was kind of interesting. They have the choice where you can collaboratively build the world with the players. After you kind of establish what the tone of the game is going to be, whether it's going to be serious or goofy, something in the middle, and then you can basically ask your players a series of questions that establishes what the world is going to be. And this is, of course, after you've established what the era is and, what that scenario is going to be. They give a list of 8 questions that need to get answered.
By each player or the group?
That's the interesting thing I found, is that it's 8 questions that are going to be answered by the players, and each one of the players answers the same number of questions. They do have a couple things where you can duplicate it if you have a 5-player or a 3-player game, if you need to get to 9 or 10 or whatever. You have these 8 questions, and you can go around the table. Essentially, you go around the table and say, okay, player 1, you answer this first question. And the first question is pretty big, actually. It's our adventure takes place in, and then coming up with a name of the town and the state. Then the second player, the industry or location is best known for is, and they take that question. And so you go around, and then you go around again if you have a 4-player game, or even a 3. If you have a 3-player game, I guess you'd be going around 3 times. The idea that all the players equally are going to answer the same number of questions about the town to do that collaborative world building. And I thought that was interesting, but I also thought that there were probably some other ways that you could address it. But first of all, my question to you, Alex, is what do you think about that kind of collaborative process of going around a table and having each player make a determination on certain aspects of the game?
I think that's pretty neat, because then it gives each of the players a chance to give a little bit of input on the world, but not way more than another player.
Sure.
I think it's good to, especially get your group together on the same page as well. I think it's definitely useful. I like that a lot, actually.
Once I kind of understood what they were going for, I thought that seemed like a perfectly reasonable thing, and it kind of gives everybody a little bit of a buy-in that is directly related to something that they input into it. When I originally saw it, though, my thought process was that we'd go through each one of those questions and collaboratively talk about it. What is the name of our town and state going to be? And then we'd all discuss that and come up with the best answer. And then another part of me was maybe we roll dice to determine which questions we're going to answer, and then everybody just answers one of them to determine that, depending on how much you really want to do. There's also one interesting thing that I liked that I don't think I would make any changes to. It says, after constructing the town, each player shares one rumor about the town. So regardless of how you're building the world, or even if you do the collaborative world building, I like the idea of each player coming up with a rumor of the town once you have established what that town is.
A lot of ways to generate plot hooks there.
A lot of ways to generate plot hooks. A lot of ways for the players themselves to generate the plot hooks for the storyline.
Right.
As a GM, I think that's incredibly useful, because I feel like players are often underutilized in the storytelling process, where you come up with this interesting hook and this interesting way of addressing the world and everything like that, and you take a lot of time to do that, and then the players will immediately derail that, so it kind of becomes pointless that you did all that work. But if you have the players actually inspire the plot hooks themselves, you've now outsourced it to them, but also they're less likely to derail it in the future, because it's something
they've
brought
helped.
up.
They've helped. Essentially, that words failed.
They help to actually engage the storyline from the get-go. We'll take this away from the Kids on Bikes franchise for a second and just see if you could apply this to something else, fantasy, sci-fi, anything like that. In a game that you were building, what would be some of the questions you'd want to ask players about the world that you're designing? Things that you think about.
I don't think you'd have to even take away from that to ask different questions. You could ask, unless you want it set somewhere that's not a town.
Yeah.
You could ask what's the technology level? What's the closest town to yours, or the closest big city to yours? You could ask about how many churches there are, if you wanted, for instance.
Oh, that's true. How many stores?
How many stores are in town? You could ask all sorts of little world building stuff, but it has to be interesting. Churches, probably not super interesting, but how many times a year do you have someone imprisoned?
Oh yeah, yeah. What's your law enforcement situation in town? Do you have do you have like a local sheriff or something, or do you like is it Andy Taylor that's like running the place, or is it Barney Fife? Is there a Barney Fife in your town? Let's just put it that way. Here's an interesting one. Where do you get your groceries? I think that's an interesting one because is that local? Do you have farmers markets, or do you have like a big store that's out of town that you have to drive to? And are you near a highway? Because if the highway goes through your town, it's definitely going to be a different experience than if it's...
Are you in the middle of the woods? What's the environment around you like? Is it plains? Is it grassland? Is it an island? Is it wooded? Is it like pine forest? Is it deciduous trees?
Oh, yeah. What's your terrain like? Because that will definitely affect...
Are you built into the side of a mountain?
Are you a floating city in the sky?
Yeah, that's
Always
important to know.
I will give you the questions that they ask, though.
Okay.
So that you can kind of get an inspiration. Hopefully everybody else can get an inspiration.
If you'd like, what we can do for this is you can give me the questions and we can answer them to make something.
Yeah, let's make something. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's have a little bit of fun. First of all...
No fun.
Okay.
Just kidding. This
all
once.
Right. We'll go through this just to kind of see how this works. So first of all, though, we have to kind of determine era that we want to go. Are we doing like classic 80s, or are we going to do like present day? Do you want to go way, way back in time?
Oh, no, like we're going to party like it's 1999.
1999. Okay, perfect. Let's do 1999. Number one is our adventure takes place in, and we need a name of a town and state.
State of uncertainty and the town of town of Timbuk3.
Oh, that was a band.
Timbuk3.
Timbuk3, yeah.
Damn. Okay, no using band names.
That was Timbuk3. Future So Bright and Gotta Wear Shades, I believe. That's the...
I have no idea.
Okay, great. Okay, so we need a name of a town. Oh, geez. Requiem.
Requiem? That's a great, foreboding name for a town.
Isn't it?
In the state of uncertainty.
State of uncertainty. We're in limbo. Okay, so we got Requiem. Okay, number two. The industry our location is best known for is... What are you thinking?
Industry?
Yeah.
Requiem is known for coffins.
We have a thriving coffin industry.
Yeah, thriving funeral, embalming, and coffin industry.
This already sounds like a really foreboding kind of campaign that we're making. Okay, well, I don't know if this kind of translates into number three, but three, our town is famous for...
Our life expectancy.
Our life expectancy.
Yeah, it's very high.
Our life expectancy is very high, but we make a lot of coffins.
Or you could be very well known for your craftsmanship.
We could be known for it. We could be famous for our craftsmanship in the coffins. Number four, though, is our town is infamous for.
Oh, the undead.
We're just gonna do zombies.
We're just rolling straight through it.
We're rolling straight through. Zombies, yeah, okay. Well, if there's too many zombies, though, that's not gonna help with the coffin market. You know what we do? The town of Requiem created coffins that have an easy pop-up lock so the zombies can easily get out of it after they come back to life. We created like little escape hatches that go right into it so that they can come out easily.
Is that what we did? Or did we design coffins that lock the body inside?
Oh, yeah, we have anti-zombie cases.
Yeah.
Perfect.
The anti-zombie coffin lids.
Yeah. I think we already answered number 5, but economically our town is...
in shambles.
In shambles?
Literally much shambling. Like the zombies.
Yeah, it's shambling. So we don't actually have a thriving coffin market. We have a shambling market.
We're known for our coffins, but our economy is in shambles.
Perfect. 6, a notable local organization is...
I was about to say Umbrella Corp, but that's too on the nose.
You know what? We do TARP Corps.
TARP Corps?
Yeah, TARP Inc.
I don't know the reference to. Oh, because it's not umbrella.
It's not an umbrella. Yeah. Awning industrial.
Oh, sure.
There we go. A notable local landmark is, now that we've established that we're a zombie town that makes coffins.
I was gonna say the river Styx, but that again is on the nose. So what about the Great Ghost Falls?
The Great Ghost Falls.
Yeah, it's like a waterfall, except
Ooh.
it's shrouded in mist from the water vapor getting splashed up, so it just looks spectral because of the
Cool.
mist, the fog shrouding it.
Cool. Because there was a lot of ways that could go. It could either be like a falls that's made of ghosts, or it could be a ghost water situation. But I think the idea that you're talking about, that it just has the appearance of being almost ethereal, that's good. It gives a little mystery to it. And then number 8 is our school's sports team is called...
First of all, what sport?
Sporty sports.
Sporty sports.
Okay, did we determine that we're doing the U.S.? Like, this is supposed to be small town USA?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, probably football then.
Football or basketball?
Football or baseball, but I'm gonna say football.
The cadavers.
The cadavers.
We just went straight on dead theme on this one.
I think what we've just created is not so much a town that you could put like a role-playing game in. I think we've just created Monster High.
That's fine.
I think that's what we just did. Oh, right. Now that we've constructed the town, though, we have to share a rumor about it. We each have to come up with a rumor.
People are going missing from the local inn.
Gee, I can't imagine what that might be about.
Yes, I can't either.
The mayor of the town had a book of necromancy in his desk.
That's more than just a rumor, because that would mean someone snooped.
No. He just somebody said that they saw inside of it. Somebody said that they saw inside the desk and swears that there's a book in there about raising the dead. Maybe the mayor is not particularly popular and wants to really pad out the crowds at his rallies. But anyway,
that's fair.
Anyway, there's a little bit of a rumor that if you were to go over to the mayor's place, in his desk, in a locked drawer, there's a book of necromancy in there. Pat from accounting swears that she saw like the glint of a book cover in there. So
I feel like we're gonna need a synopsis on screen after
we
did that, just of the entire town rundown, just a little.
Yeah.
Like, here you go. Here's what we built. Have fun with it. Let us know if you play a game with this.
Yeah, let us know if Requiem, this lovely town of undead coffin makers, is the kind of town that you'd like to build. That would be fun. So, do you have a positive view of the idea of doing a collaborative world building as opposed to the person running the game just building the game from scratch and having people run inside of it?
I think it could be fun. I think it's definitely interesting the way that is set up, where the world was, basically, this is what the town and what your situation is like. So I think the players building that will definitely make them more invested.
Sure.
Because like now I'm like, oh, well, what happened in Requiem now? It's like, clearly we set it up to be like undead going crazy, but there could be other stuff too if we had chosen a couple different industries or something.
Right. My thinking is that if I run it, I'll probably do this with the collaborative creation tools for a couple reasons. One, because I don't really have any strong idea of what I'd want a campaign to be or what I want my town to be. But two, because I like the idea that with the players actually helping to build it, they are going to be far more invested once we actually start playing, because they then also, not only did they help to create it, but they also have a little bit of knowledge about the town already. Like, they're already part of it and are already sort of aware of the ins and outs of what's there. What town we create at that point, everybody. Will it be Requiem? Will it be our coffin-making zombies?
No, at that point, no, it won't be. It'll be the town of Sisyphus.
And the landmark is a giant boulder that just kind of sits ever so precariously on top of a hill right over the town?
Yeah.
Perfect. Do you have any ideas for collaborative world building that you utilize in your games? If you do, let us know in the comments down below. I ran across a question that I wanted to throw by you that I saw on a Reddit post where I find all sorts of fascinating questions. And I wanted to get your take on how to subtly tell the party the weakness of the BBEG, the big bad evil guy. The poster writes, I have made a total OP BBEG, but once the party knows their weakness, they are very easy to beat. How should I subtly tell them what the weakness is?
Oh, well, they wear a target on their chest, pointing exactly where the arrow needs to go to kill them.
Perfect. My thought process is, why do you want to tell them where the weakness is? That seems like a really terrible idea. Why did you create a big bad evil guy that's OP only to just tell everybody what the weakness is? Like, that seems kind of silly. Like, hey, everybody, here's Achilles. You get to fight Achilles. Isn't that great? Oh, by the way, the heal. Just hit the heal once. It's a Dark Souls boss where it's like, no, just press the button. Okay. Why'd you make the bad guy so evil and powerful? It's that Mysterio fight from Spider-Man. Where he gets like 50 health bars, but actually you just punch him once and he goes down immediately.
Just all of them. I feel like it's one of those weird things, like you want to make a really overpowered bad guy, and I get that. You want them to be scary, intimidating, but then also giving them a really giant weakness. Like, you don't subtly... I feel like you don't really subtly let the party know. You don't tell them. They have to find out.
They gotta earn that.
Not only do they have to earn it, they have to figure it out. They have to figure out, like, look into this bad guy's, like, backstory. It's like, oh, Superman's really a tough guy to beat right now. I have no idea how we're gonna beat this guy. And maybe look into his nemesis that he murdered Lex Luthor and what Lex was researching, and this weird green stone that Lex seemed to, like, really be obsessed with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, like, what is this? And then you realize it's kryptonite and it came from outer space, and you realize Superman's actually an alien from outer space.
Yeah.
And you're like, wonder if this green rock will hurt this alien.
I feel like there's a whole campaign that you just build around the idea that you have to figure out what the weakness of the big bad evil guy actually is, so that they can defeat the evil character at the end of all of this. Like, depending on what kind of evil character you're building, there probably is an intrinsic weakness to them. Vampires have them, mummies, sorcerers, anything like that. There's definitely things that you can do. Chances are, if it's a spellcaster, there might be a spell focus that they have that you might be able to take away. If you're a rogue, we determined that on the last episode, you might be able to steal it away. Or they get their power from somewhere and you need to cut them off from it. They're vulnerable at certain times of the day. But I don't just want to just kind of like hint and say, oh, by the way, it seems to be a glowing spot on his back.
It's one thing if you've got a very obvious glaring, like, weakness, like, oh, yeah, your perception check lets you see that they've got a slight, like, a pause with their arm or something like that. Like, maybe they don't have full motion with it. Oh, yeah. They're covering it up by using their other hand.
Yeah.
But, like, they've got their shield arm looks a little lower than it should be for the using a shield properly, so maybe they've got this weakness. Like, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But, like, oh, yeah, no, he's allergic to garlic.
I think that it would be far more interesting, though, if you just don't tell them and have the party have to figure it out. Like, for instance, and they could even do it after they encounter the bad guy. Have them realize that this character is far too powerful for them, to the point where they're probably going to have to retreat and reevaluate. And then, once that happens, have them make some observations about what they saw. You know, you could give them information if they're looking for something specific, like that shield arm. And then maybe they could do research and they could find that he was in a battle and he had gotten cut on the arm, and so now that's actually, he doesn't really have full mobility in that particular arm, and that could be something that you could exploit. Maybe you find out that he has either a fiscal or a financial or a political backing of some kind, and that you can cut him off from those, that you can deal with him in a different way than directly going up to him and starting smacking him with the sword. But I feel like it's more interesting if the party has to encounter an OP character, realize that they are not equipped to deal with it in the traditional way that they plan, and then have to go back and reevaluate that they should have thought about this a little bit more. Because that's going to inform them that, yes, this is not just a cut and dry run up and start smacking it with a sword and throwing fireballs.
I think another subtle way you could do, if you wanted to do this kind of thing, is if you had rumors being spread. How, like in the segment before we were talking about town rumors.
Sure. Maybe
not even just town rumors, but like maybe however wide their area of influence is that you're dealing with them. Maybe across your travels you encounter many different rumors about this person.
Sure.
And some of them are fanciful or just super far-fetched. But then there's the occasional rumor that like kind of piques your interest. You always see him wearing a silver chain around his neck. I've heard that it was enchanted by an oracle decades ago. You hear something about that and you're like, what? And then you like see a picture and notice that, he's got this thing around his neck. And maybe someone else says, I've heard he's blessed with immortality from an enchanted item he wears, for instance. So something like a bunch of rumors that just kind of add up and you can piece together, and it's like, turns out this guy's got an amulet of immortality. So you somehow figure out a way to steal this or get rid of it or disenchant it, and the guy's gonna crumble into dust.
There's a lot of things that you can do, but I feel like the general takeaway is that the players have to in some way initiate the investigation of that. Just coming out and saying it is going to be tricky. Even if you're doing it in a fairly subtle way, there's so much more reward if the players say, I'm going to investigate something, and you're like, oh, what are you going to investigate? And try to lead them to it. But because they asked for it, it means a lot more to them. If you just kind of like go, look at the chandelier above his head. That has a loose chain.
What is this bow doing here on this balcony during this wedding?
Yeah, just start using references from things that you took it from. Remember the red wedding?
I don't.
Yeah, but you just hope that somebody in your player base does. And then just say, yeah, boy, this feels a lot like that. That would be great. I like the idea you were talking about, though, that rumors in a town can be useful. Especially if it's something that you can throw in when your players actively look to investigate or do observations, and you can kind of throw a hint of something bigger that maybe they'll take note of, maybe they won't. And
it's always possible that like you give them a couple red herrings and then a lead, So what you do is give them the stuff that's really just out there and not even true at all, but it's a rumor. It doesn't have to be. And then you throw in something that's got a little bit of truth or something that's exactly true, and they might follow up the wrong leads. So maybe they think this guy's actually doesn't have an amulet of immortality. Maybe they think he's some kind of like shape changer. They bring all the stuff to deal with the shape changer at the final battle, and it's like, yeah, you guys prepped for the wrong thing. It's not a shape changer. It's like you did your research and it was thorough, but it was incorrect and you jumped to the wrong conclusion. So now it's not even that you're punishing for it at that point. It's like, I feel like if that happens, it should be part of like the roleplay where it's like, oh, we done fucked up. This guy isn't a shape changer. And now we're getting our asses beat. I feel like that's just good storytelling at that point. The players might be a little upset. You don't want to make it so hard that they get it wrong and they feel bad and stupid about it, but like in that case, you'd probably give plenty of chances for them to go and figure out the lead is wrong, but they might just fully believe in this. Their characters might just full on be like, yeah, no, we're embracing this.
Yeah.
And the players might just be like, we're pretty sure we're wrong, but the characters think they're right, so they're going to go for it. And as a GM, I hope you would go full tilt with that.
Oh, yeah. Your shape changer is in another castle. In the meantime, you got to deal with this one.
Yeah.
Totally.
Maybe you actually encountered a shape changer taking the shape of this guy, but not actually this guy.
Right. I guess I would just caution against doing the thing that a lot of people would be really tempted to do, which is to just outright try to, without being prompted, just suggest that there is a weakness that can be exploited for massive gain, because it starts to feel very railroaded, like the agency is not in the player's hands anymore. I would feel a little cheated by it as a player. Oh, gee, would you look at that? There's a lever off to the side, and ooh, he's standing on something that looks like a trapdoor? Who knows? It's like, oh, so I just have to go pull the lever, huh? Oh, I don't know.
And of course, then you pull the lever and you fall through a trapdoor. Ha!
That would be, oh my god. Can you imagine if the trapdoor was where the lever actually was? That would be amazing.
Yeah, it's just a weighted lever.
What you do is you set up a whole scenario where this is like a really inept trap maker. Yeah, you pull the lever back, and then, like, a plume of acid shoots into your face from the handle of the lever.
There you go. The handle just comes off and out pops a grenade.
Does anyone out there have any ideas about what you would do about your big bad evil guy having a weakness? Or, and this is the bigger question I had, why would you give your big bad evil guy a weakness that was obvious?
Crippling weakness to breathing.
Exactly. All the shields in the front, and nothing in the back. You just go around the back. Backstabbing damage.
He's just got really bad asthma, guys.
He's just got really bad asthma. Have him run after you.
Yep.
Run
Cast
away.
Fear, make him run away, and then he'll collapse.
There you go. Yeah, the whole key to winning the boss battle is to run away and let him run out of breath. Alex, now that we've beaten all the bosses and in the world that we designed, how are you feeling?
Feel like you need a coffin to rest in.
Perfect. Well,
anti-zombie only.
Oh, yeah. Well, I know a town that we can go to for that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think that they deliver. So
great.
Yeah, we're setting that up. It's a TaskRabbit thing. Anyway, so Alex, if they wanted to go out into a place where they could find more Total Pebble Knockdown, where could they go?
If you want to find more of our show and all the things we do, please go over to TotalPebbleKnockdown.com.
That's right. For all of your zombie coffin needs, you can go right over there. Feel free to click on the Patreon banner, where we release stuff a little early for our patrons, including some additional content you don't normally get in the episodes. And you can also check us out on every podcast app that is known to mankind. And you can also find us on social media. I am at Titanium.
I am at EXP Limited. Our show is at Pebble Knockdown, and you should be able to find us over on YouTube Music as a podcast now, as well as Anchor has been rolled into Spotify for podcasters, or Spotify's podcasting part. So
something like that, yeah.
You should be able to find us there as well. Nothing, I think, should change on the Spotify Anchor side, except for Anchor itself. But I don't think anyone has actually uses Anchor. Well, no one anymore, but I don't think anyone is using Anchor to listen to the show. But if you're encountering any issues hearing this, and you don't hear this to know about it, well, let us know.
Let us know. Yeah, of course, you probably won't be able to let us know because you aren't hearing it. If you're not hearing this, let us know.
Yes.
So this has been another episode of Total Pebble Knockdown. We've knocked down even more pebbles than we did before. That is the other thing our town is known for. And until we return to Requiem, thank you for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye forever. And now, just now. Bye.
Yeah, that too.